Welcome in, welcome in. This is your Wakanda RN. So I'm happy to have you guys today, and I have a special guest with us today. And so some of you have probably been wondering about when am I going to invite a CNA guest? I've talked about nurses, but what about our CNAs? What about our wonderful CNAs? Have you ever wondered about, CNA experience and the depth of that? Have you wondered about what does it mean to be a CNA small business owner? Well, this is the podcast for you. So, please introduce yourself to the audience and let them know what you do.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Elena Torres. I was a CNA for 13 years. I was really wanting something different for my life, but something I could still use my medical background in. So I became a health insurance broker.
Right. All right. So I have some of your experience here. You're teletech, you've done long-term care, med surge, you're a scheduler for an endocrine surgeon. I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot. So kind of walk us through a little bit of your journey. How'd you end up at these different specialty areas? So just kind of walk us through a little bit.
Yeah, so when I initially got my CNA, it was just because I was always interested in the medical field, but I wanted something better than working at the hardware store I was working at. So it's a great job, just not for me, long term anyways. And I I grew up in Billings, Montana, and there was a nursing home that did classes. And I was like, sure, it's 2 weeks. I'll go ahead and take it. I'll see what this thing's about. And then it became 2 weeks, and then I was at the nursing home for a year and a half, um, which was actually a really cool spot. It was not traditional in by any sense of any. It was very much non-traditional, which I loved. Um, and I decided it was time for me to move away from home. And I ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I've been for the past 12 years, 12 years and a couple weeks, and that I've been here. And I've just been on the best journeys. Like you were saying, I have done a lot of different things. What I really wanted to focus on when I first moved here to Denver was I don't know anything about anything, and I want to be a temp for a little bit to just get a feel for what's around me, what are the good places to work, where do they treat you well, where do you have room for growth. And I found a lot of what you would expect the really bad nursing homes, one of which I did have to report to state. It was so bad. And I also saw some really cool stuff. I went to an eating recovery center to work, which is very interesting and eye-opening. And then I ended up being hired on as permanent staff with the endocrine surgeon that you mentioned. And that opened up a whole world that I just didn't even know existed. And it was just
Before
the
you dive
beginning.
deeper into that wide world that we're going to talk about here, you said you had to report a nursing home to state. Why did you have to do that?
Yeah, there were a lot of patients just being completely neglected. Um, and it's age old, well, there's not enough people to take care of them. And it's absolutely tragic. It should not be okay. I feel very strongly and passionately about that. They're still humans, and why are they getting treated differently? It shouldn't be like that in any way, shape, or form for anybody. So in this particular place, I couldn't even tell you the name of it now, even if I wanted to, but I'm not, obviously, because I don't even remember it. But um, when I walked in, I had to basically chase somebody down, like, "Hey, can you tell me like what to do? I've never been here before. Can you show me where basic things are so I can do this shift that I was there for?" That was really difficult. And then at one point, we were filling up everyone's waters before bed. This was like um, an evening bedtime shift. And so we were going around, and I'm doing my side of the hallway, the other girl's doing her side of the hallway, and we're just going down. I'm like, "Oh, she's really fast." I was like, "Well, she's permanent staff. She knows she has a system down." And then it took me a little bit to realize that she was emptying the old water from their little cups onto the ground by the door. Instead of walking the extra 5 feet into the bathroom, she was walking in and right by the door,
Wait
just
a minute.
dumping the
So she
water.
just dumped the water by the door?
Yeah,
That
because she's
sounds
like, "We have to go
inhumane.
fast." And I'm like,
Whoa.
That's not how you go faster. That's not
Wow.
it. That's not how
Wow.
you go faster. That
No,
is
not at
how
all.
somebody falls. That is how
Mhm.
mold starts. And like my
Mhm.
mind was going to all the things. I'm like, this is absolutely unsafe. This is
Mhm.
not okay. And that was red flag number one outside of the beginning. And I saw several patients with stage fours, decubitus ulcers, that weren't being addressed at all, and no one cared. And I was like, yeah, that's not okay. Like I can't just sit here and not say something. I have to say something because I would hate for that to be one of my family members and me not know that that's a bad thing or not even understand what those words mean and what the implications are for their health.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, I have to say something. And I was like, track down the LPN who I felt bad for. She was absolutely swamped. And I'm like, hey, I know you have like 1,001 things on your plate, but this is what I just saw. And there's like there's no dressing. It's like there's not even, it doesn't look like it's ever been touched. And they were like, oh yeah, no, they struggle with that. It's okay. I'm like,
Oh.
no, it's not.
No,
Like,
that's
first
definitely
of
not
all,
okay.
it's never okay. Second of
No,
all,
of
this is serious and this needs to be dealt with.
course.
And I had to basically educate the LPN on what a stage 4 decubitus ulcer was and how serious that is. And I'm like, I should not be the one to teach you this and to remind you how important that is. I should not be the one to do that. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a bigger issue because I'm sure if I kept looking, there would have been more and more things to say.
So wait a minute. You
So
you you said you had to teach a nurse about stage fours?
they,
Oh my
she's like, oh
goodness.
no, we don't worry about those.
That is insane.
I'm like, do you know what do you know what I'm telling you? Like
That
do you
is
know the
insane.
words that I'm telling you right now? Because I
Right.
would hope that you do. And like I had to really like fight to keep myself professional in that moment because I'm like, this is not okay. This
No, it's
absolutely
not.
should not be happening.
Not at all.
I will never come back there again. And it broke my heart because I'm like, if I could, I would have saved all the patients. I would have like grabbed them, like, no, just come with me. I'll take care of you.
Yes, yes. So
Obviously, that's
except
not realistic, but yeah.
No, no. And so it sounded like you did the right thing, for sure. So of course I want to dive into some of your other workplaces that you have worked and kind of ask more questions on that. But first, I want to dive into your business. So what is your small business? Let us in on that.
Yeah, so I am a licensed health insurance broker in
Okay.
27 states.
Okay.
In short, I help people under the age of 65 find a health insurance policy, and I do that by doing an assessment on them before I ever bring up a plan, before I ever talk about anything. I ask them about their health. I'm asking, do you have any major surgeries? Have you had any, hospitalizations? What do you see your doctor for whenever you show up there? Is it because you have the flu or is it because you have an ongoing issue? And I basically go through kind of like a review of systems with people to make sure that I'm putting them in the best plan that they can be on for their health and for their wallet. And sometimes we do have to kind of pick an avenue, whether we want to go cost effective or more health effective. It's unfortunate, but that's what I'm here to do is I'm here to educate the clients on what the market looks like and making sure that they're ultimately going to not be at risk of medical bankruptcy because they've gotten onto a plan that they don't understand or is vastly underinsuring them.
Hey, you. Yes, you. You've made it this far, so go ahead and give a like or a follow. I appreciate it.
Mm. So as a CNA, how can someone get started with that? How can they become a health insurance broker?
Yeah, it's honestly it's no more intimidating than becoming a CNA, doing the little classes that you have to do. It's really not. It's not rocket science, but it is definitely something that getting the licensing, getting things started is the easy part. Anybody can do it. It is super easy to do. It's the consistency of this is 100% commission. I don't get a participation trophy for just walking in the door. I get paid when I get a new client onboarded. That's when I'm able to make my income. So it's hustling all the time. It
Mm,
is
okay.
constantly getting your name out there. I love doing things like this. I love networking. That is how I have created my business. And it has gone predominantly referral only as of, this year. So that's very exciting. It was very unexpected, but it's a very big blessing and I'm just, yeah. So becoming one, super easy. Finding the right company that
Mhm.
does right by their people, both as like a contractor for them and a from the client side. Do they do the right things? Do they own up to when like, hey, it was a technical error, we got it, we're fixing it? Or are they the ones that like, oh well, guess you're stuck, see ya?
Right.
And that takes a little bit more time to kind of feel out and really see like when push comes to shove what happens when things are really serious, if it is a serious matter, or if it's an easy fix, if it's just again, technology's not perfect, but it's making sure that you do it that way and just staying very consistent over this past almost 2 years, a year and a half. It has been a wild roller coaster, and it's the mental side of like, oh, nobody talked to me this week. Okay. All right,
Okay.
cool. So I'm not making a dime this week. Cool, cool, cool. And it's getting over that and getting over that um the mental barriers is the hardest part. And I definitely experienced that over this last year. Especially I definitely went down, went to a different place in my mental health that I wasn't okay with being, and I was thankfully able to pull myself out of it with some help. But yeah, that's
I
the
was gonna
hardest part.
say, so how did you get out of that rough spot?
Yeah, it was really relying on my support system, my family, my friends, my colleagues that have all played their part, that whether they knew it or not, of being like the real ones. Like, if you don't get it together, we're not going to save you.
Mm,
Like, we
okay.
can't support you if you don't start saving yourself.
Right.
And that helped a lot. And I think I needed that, but I also needed the soft, like, it's okay, everything's gonna be okay, we'll take care of you. I kind of needed like both ends of the spectrum just to help
Right.
like there's going to be people that are absolutely, going to have to leave because they aren't making sales, and I faced that a lot this past year, and thankfully I've been on a good roll here, and I'm definitely trying to keep that going. So yeah, it's the more mental side of it is much different. It's really hard, but in a totally different way than working in the hospitals. They're both mentally challenging, but in just very, very different ways.
So we're gonna touch on the hospital aspect for sure. Pretend I'm somebody off the street. Just pretend there's
Okay.
a listener that's listening right now. They're like, okay, how can I get started as a stranger? What would you tell
Yeah.
them? What would you tell me?
I would tell them to, for one, call me and let's have a conversation. And second, it's um, what is your goal out of life? Why are you doing medical anything? Why are you doing that? Is it because it fulfills something in something? Does it give you something that really fulfills you? Or are you doing it because it's a really nice paycheck? If you're doing it because you want to have more, like you're going to basically stick your head in the sand for X amount of time. Whether that some people will do that for 4 years and they'll come up for air, when they need to recharge their batteries. But ultimately, you are hustling all the time. Are you okay with that? Because you have to be willing to at least sacrifice that. Are you What's your why? Why are you doing anything? Is it so you can have a vacation home? Is it so you can not be in debt? Is it so you can, provide for a family? And when you know that, that keeps you going because no one's woken up and like, you know what? I'm going to be a health insurance agent because I am passionate about it. There's probably no one who's ever said that in their life. They
I've
do it.
never heard it, but hey, hey,
There's probably somebody out there.
right.
Um, but I do it because I know it's going to provide for me the longer I stay with it. It's worth it to maybe sacrifice a couple weekends out with the friends, maybe sacrifice a couple nights sitting on the couch. It's worth it. I have seen colleagues of mine, both in my office and in other offices around the country, make their yearly bonus $80,000 or more. And they're on the top of the company, and they don't do that by going home at sharp 5 o'clock to go, watch TV and make dinner. They do that by putting in a lot of hours. And they do that by mm, overcoming all of the mental hurdles that you have to do in order to be really successful. And if you just don't stop, just keep going, just keep swimming. And yeah, and it's going to be worth it. And I've seen it change people's lives because you're constantly getting different ways to make money, with whether that be through bonuses or annual incentives or quarterly incentives. You are getting rewarded everywhere you look if you just work hard.
So I know a lot of people, they think CNA, they
Mhm.
automatically go to long-term care. They just think
Yeah.
of the nursing home. So you have a plethora of experience. So besides the nursing home, where would you recommend a CNA to go work?
I would highly recommend, when you are starting off, to work in an ICU. If you are wanting to become a nurse or move up from there, maybe become, an NP or something, if wherever you want to go, you are going to see a lot. I was in the trauma ICU. There's no shortage of what you'll see. You are going to see a lot. Because we're CNAs, at least in my hospital and my unit, I was floated a lot. I got floated pretty much everywhere. I was in the cardiac ICU, which I actually really like cardiac. I'm just not as familiar with ICU cardiac. Um, and I was on a floor and somebody started to code and both nurses froze. And they both froze and I was like, all right, I'm taking over. Like, no, it's like, come on, guys, we gotta get it together. And you're going to, because like just being in the ICU, you're going to have more experience. Not to say that you go in there and act like you know everything, because you don't, but walk in there with humility. But you're also like, yeah, when push comes to shove, you're gonna take over and just run the thing. You just got to do it. But it's yeah, you just learn so much. And especially at a teaching hospital. I worked at a teaching hospital. You're going to have opportunities when the floor is slower. I won't say the Q word. When the floor is slower, you might be able to step off the floor and watch a procedure happen bedside if that's possible. Or they may need you to hold position for that. I've done that for test tubes, for different stuff. It's never anything too invasive, but it's really cool to see. And you just get to like be that fly on the wall and observe. And if you're not sure where you want to end up in the medical field, it is a really good place to be that fly on the wall for so much. And I think starting off as a CNA gives you a different kind of appreciation for how much CNAs do in the hospital setting. They do a lot depending on the hospital. I've worked at other hospitals where it was like, cool, well, you have four things that you can do, so have fun.
Right.
And being in the ICU, you got a lot more responsibility, which I really liked.
Okay. Okay. So ICU is a good suggestion. So if you're a
Mhm.
CNA and you have a hospital, particularly a teaching hospital, you might want to give that a try. So I wanted to
Absolutely.
ask you about the endocrine day surgery.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. Tell us a little bit more about that and what you did there.
Yeah. So like I was saying, I started off as just a little temp that was working the front desk, checking people in, getting their little insurance cards, taking their little copies, very, very easy stuff. And the surgeon prefers working with CNAs, not MAs. It's just her preference. That's what she was, when she was a baby doctor, that's what she was around. So that's what she prefers. So,
So, what is an MA for those who may not know what that is?
oh, sorry, medical assistant.
Okay. Okay.
They're certified to do like a little bit more than a CNA, like blood draws and things like that. But you know, they're not that far apart from each other.
Hmm.
So yeah, I started off just doing that, and then eventually it led me down to I ended up being there for 4 years, and I did surgery scheduling. I would help with bedside procedures. I'd pull drains. I would because there'd be JP drains in the neck after like a thyroid cancer. If there was lymph node involvement, there would be JP drains, and I would pull those. I would help during fine needle aspirations, which was pretty cool. After you've seen one, they're really very boring, but it's pretty interesting to get to do stuff like that. And there was one unique opportunity where um, I the doctor was doing a scar revision, and I got to be in the room with that. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, so it's just, yeah, saying yes to different opportunities, but that job taught me a lot. It also taught me boundaries. So
So, was that outpatient?
it was, yes. So I worked in the office side of things. So I was the one in the office doing insurance calls when I stepped into that role. I was calling insurance like, hey, I have these CPT codes, these procedure codes. Are they covered or not? Do I need a prior auth? Things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we've talked about outpatient. We've talked about hospital. We talked about health insurance. There is a common topic I do want to talk about, which is med surge. So a lot of times I hear the perspective of med surge from nurses. There's plenty of nurses who have plenty to say about med surge. However, it's my first time asking from a CNA's perspective on this show. So what is your perspective of med surge in a CNA?
It is being a CNA in a med-surg on med-surg floors is so wildly different because I was in the float pool. So I went to every med-surg unit in that hospital, and I would have different groups at night. I work nights only, and I would have units that would not pick up a finger to help you. If you were swamped, call lights going off left, right, and center, you are getting no help. Everyone is sitting on their phone scrolling Instagram while you're running from end to end, trying to make sure that people don't fall. You're doing all the things to try and get them to the bathroom safely or get them their water or whatever.
Wait a minute. Were these nurses that just sitting there on their phone?
Oh yeah, that's very common. 100%
That's
very common.
That's
And I'm like,
unacceptable.
it
Completely
is.
unacceptable. So if you're listening, you're a nurse, that's completely unacceptable.
Yes, it
Help
is
your
not okay.
CNAs. Help your CNAs, help your
Yes.
techs. So you heard it first. I'm sorry. Go ahead, continue.
Yes. No, I appreciate that. That's still like I've been gone a year and a half, and it still makes me mad when I like hear about those stories because I'm like, you realize they're one person, right? Like they're also not your servants. Help them, help them, help them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are the other units where it was a more equal environment to in a degree, like I loved the card med. Like that medical cardiology, that was my favorite unit because the nurses were amazing. They, it was that like, hey, I'm going to so and so's room, so I'll do their vitals here. Let's not wake them up anymore. So skip that room. But if you want to do my other two, that would be really helpful. Cool. Let's do it. It was a divide and conquer instead of, no, that's not my job. I'm not doing their vitals. That's yours. It's like, you're going to be in there. Like, I get it. Yes, I can do it. Yes, the world will keep turning. I will do it. However, can we think about their sleep? Because we're on nights and like, let's not interrupt them 1,000 times. They're already doing that during the day. I don't know. Maybe could we work smarter, not harder? And it would always be, it was so refreshing to walk into a unit like that where you knew that if you were stuck in a room doing a cleanup, doing whatever, there wasn't a line of people waiting out the door for you to be like, can you do this, 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 and this? It's like, can I wash my hands? Like, can I do that first? It makes it really teaches you who and it helps you like read people because I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
can read people very well now of like, oh, you're the sit back and you do it kind of type, or if it's I can read that now. And med surg in general, you still have a very eye-opening experience. It's just in a very different way. And if I were to relate it to long-term care, it's the most close to that, especially if you're working a rehab unit. You have to get them up. There's no bedpans. There's no urinals. It is, nope, you're getting up and you are walking into the bathroom. There's no workarounds in those environments. So for those, rehabs, sort of, if it's an ortho floor, you're going to be getting every single patient out of bed, most likely, depending on where they're at in their care. So those floors can be super exhausting. I
Mm-hmm.
remember walking on my car after those nights, and I would try to badge into my car because I was so exhausted because you didn't sit down maybe 10 minutes collectively the whole
Mm-hmm.
night because you were just running. And then you have the nights when it was still busy, but you weren't feeling like you were left out to dry by yourself, where you're like, yeah, I was busy, but like I don't feel that bad because like I know I wasn't the only one working hard that shift. It really med-surg is wild. It's the
It's the
Wild
Wild Wild
West.
West. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Med-surg is truly the Wild Wild West. I
it is.
completely agree.
Yeah.
My experience is pretty similar. My experience is pretty similar. So, I worked med-surg for a little bit over a year,
Mhm.
and, but the time I worked was during, right at the beginning of COVID too. So
Oh,
yeah. So if
yeah.
you are somebody that's new, maybe you've heard stories. Maybe if you're one of the few OGs who worked during that time period, if you know, you know. And yeah, that was an unforgettable experience working med surge and COVID. So yeah, I
It
understand where you're coming
was.
from.
It
I
was
understand.
weird. I feel like I got very lucky during COVID because I didn't see the horrors of it as much as most medical people. And I say people because it's not just nurses or CNAs. It
Mm-hmm.
is everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I didn't see that because my hours were severely cut because I was working in a surgical hospital when I was med surg float pool. It was a predominantly surgical hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And since all elective procedures were canceled, multiple units in the hospital were just completely shut down. So they didn't have the revenue to keep paying us to just show up and not do anything. So it was, I literally how I was the one using the UV light to kill the germs on masks. Most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen stage fours. I've seen a lot. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's disgusting. I will never do that again.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
can't blame you.
So, and of course I still saw horrible, totally tragic things, but it was, in the comparison to everybody else, I mean, I feel like I got out pretty unscathed.
gotcha. Gotcha. So it sounds like the accumulation of all these experiences that you've had. So we talk about med surg, ICU, long term care, endocrine day surgery. With all of these, it sounds like it helped you in your health insurance journey. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it really did. It really, and I didn't know at that point, like I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason.
Well, same.
And I didn't realize that the path I was taking was kind of setting me up to be in this role. So when I have clients tell me, I have this like thing, it's not that big of a deal. I think it's called a mitral valve prolapse. I think it went away though, so I'm okay now. I can be like, oh, that doesn't just go away. That's serious.
Uh-huh.
Talk to a professional. Talk to a cardiologist. I'm not going to tell you anything more than that. Go to a cardiologist. Meanwhile, in my mind, because I was teletech, I really was pretty involved with the surgical cardiology floor. I was like, you need a TAVR? Holy crap, you need a lot of things right now. Like, you may not need it right now, but might be later. Like, holy moly. Like just thinking, of course, that's what I have experience with. So I think that that's the course of action. I could be very wrong, but I'm like, you would need to tell somebody because that doesn't just go away. I know that much. So
Right.
I'm able to put people on plans that will cover a TAVR if they do need it. If
Uh-huh.
they do need something super serious, I understand what that course of action looks like from a very outsider's view because because I did get so much exposure, I feel like it really helped me of like, okay, I think I saw this one time and I think that it's, A, B, and C needs to happen after an accident or after, a cardiac event or something. I'm like, oh, hey, cool, they're going to need this, this, and this. So let's get them on something that's going to prepare them for that. Let's get them on a plan that's going to protect them
Uh-huh.
so they aren't those people doing a GoFundMe because they didn't know what their plan covered.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to research and make sure that everybody touching them is in network. So we're not having to go out of network because that's when people run into trouble too. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. So so we're gonna stop here, but where can people find you? Where can people find your business? Where people can find your socials? Where can people find you if they want more information?
yeah, so I am Taurus and Co Health Plans on Instagram. I have a Facebook page. You can just Google me too, Elena Torres or Taurus and Co Health Plans, and I will come up. And on my Instagram, Facebook, everything, I have a link tree, and that gives you direct sites to my booking link, my website, and my contact card. So I would love to help anybody I can. And yeah, my website has the states I'm licensed in. So yeah, I would love to help anybody in those states.
All right, all right. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, and
Thanks for
you've been
having me.
very
This was so fun.
yes, yes, you've been very helpful. I feel like you're going to help a lot of people out in their journey, and maybe they'll be inspired to become a health insurance broker. So you never know.
That'd be so exciting. Yes, come
You
on.
never know. You never know. You never know. So thank you guys for tuning in for your Wakanda RN. I love you guys, and until next time. All right, later.